Welcome to my mega review of Attack of the Clones, where we don't just review the movie, but everything that went into making the movie what it was. Now, if you haven't seen my Phantom Menace mega review yet, or if you want to jump forward to my Revenge of the Sith, you can click on the card in the top right corner, but I'll link them again at the end of the video anyway. But what can we say about Attack of the Clones? It was undeniably a significant improvement on Episode 1. Perhaps that might have something to do with audiences' expectations having taken a hit already.
Episode 1 just stinks. Remember Jar Jar Binks and how he stepped in poo.
But Lucas did at least attempt to address the issues that people had with the first movie. Anakin's not a little kid anymore, midichlorians are not mentioned at all, and Jar Jar Binks is almost entirely written out of the film. However, the working title for the script was Jar Jar's Big Adventure. Obviously this was a joke at all the hate he got from Episode 1, right? Or was it? Perhaps this was a hint at a much bigger story twist that was originally planned for the franchise, but had to be changed after the backlash against Jar Jar. But I'll save that topic for my Revenge of the Sith review. But there's no doubt that Lucas did try to fix his previous mistakes. Take, for example, the problem with the ending multiplication effect.
It's a little disjointed.
Seems like a lot of short scenes.
It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places.
He realised having too many different story threads going on at the same time can be confusing at the end of the movie. So in Attack of the Clones, the ending was just one thing happening at a time. First the monster fight, then the arena battle, then the clone battle, then the lightsaber fight. So technically that kind of was 4 different endings, yeah, but they weren't all happening at once. They were happening in a straight line, one after the other. So he kind of didn't really fix the problem, but he tried. That's the point, he tried. Perhaps this extended ending might also be the reason why Attack of the Clone is actually the longest of all of the Star Wars movies, clocking in at 142 minutes. And this movie also carried on the little-known Star Wars tradition, that being the even-numbered movies. During the opening title crawl, important story information is included in capital letters. It's only in the even-numbered movies and only for the key story elements in the crawl. Death Star in Episode 4, Galactic Empire in Episode 6, and Army of the Republic here in Attack of the Clones. Just kind of like a fun little meta tradition that sprung up amongst these movies. Or at least it was a fun little tradition until J.J. Abrams decided to do it in Episode 7! No, J.J. Abrams, what, you couldn't wait one movie till Episode 8 and do it in that so we could keep the tradition going? And you use capitals 3 times in the title crawl. You're only supposed to do it once in the title crawl, and you're only supposed to do it for the even numbers. You ruin this as well, J.J. Abrams. Your day's gonna come for a mega review as well. You guarantee that. But before we start jumping into some of the plot details for Attack of the Clones, or some of the performances, let's talk a little bit about the behind the scenes information. Okay, there's a lot of different stuff that I found about this, so I'm just going to throw it out sort of random, rapid-fire style for you. Okay, Jango Fett bangs his head on the ship door as he walks back into his ship in this scene, as a reference to the stormtrooper who did that in A New Hope.
Take over.
You can even hear the sound as he hits his head. Jango Fett is also named Django after George Lucas's favourite 1960s movie Django, which we all know Quentin Tarantino turned into Django Unchained, and Django in that had a rivalry with Samuel L. Jackson there, just like the Django in Attack of the Clones had a rivalry with Samuel L. Jackson. So that's like 6 degrees of revenge between those two characters. Samuel L. Jackson's purple lightsaber had a special engraving on it. What did it say?
It's the one that says bad motherfucker.
In the nightclub scene, George Lucas's daughter actually plays the purple Twi'lek that you see right here. Wait. Do you see that? One more time, right there. Anakin just made a pass at George Lucas's daughter. That weird swimmy creature that you see swimming around in Kamino actually has a very long history. It was originally supposed to be an air whale swimming around Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back, but it never made it into the film. It was then supposed to be a sand creature swimming around the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi, and then it was supposed to be swimming around the Gungan City in Episode 1, but it never made it into any of them, so it finally made it here in Attack of the Clones. Because Because Ewan McGregor went and filmed Black Hawk Down after finishing filming on Attack of the Clones, by the time he came back for reshoots, he shaved off all his beard. So in scenes like the elevator scene, that's actually a fake beard. Can you tell? I don't know, it's a pretty good beard. Captain Panaka was actually recast and was actually made a whole new character because the original actor wanted to actually be able to read the script before he decided to sign on again for the new movie. Maybe he wanted to make sure that the script was actually kind of good, but George Lucas just scrapped him and got someone else. Another actor who didn't reappear in this one, who was supposed to, was Terence Stamp as Chancellor Valorum, but he refused to show up because he said, quote, "Actors prefer to work with actors." I guess he didn't like being in the big green rooms and acting against nothing. In the scene where Obi-Wan is being chased by Jango Fett through the asteroid belt, one asteroid is actually one of those big fat cows that Anakin rides at a different point in the movie. If you look closely, one of those asteroids actually has legs. One of the special effects guys threw it in. I don't know where it is. There's way too much stuff flying around. I can't find it, but special effects guys say it's in there somewhere. Also, according to George Lucas, the young Boba Fett, he learns the trick of sticking his ship onto the space garbage in Empire Strikes Back because of how Obi-Wan escaped from them here in the asteroid belt. I don't know how he knew that Obi-Wan was there attached to an asteroid, because if he's undetected, how do you know? But whatever. The aliens on Kamino are designed specifically as a reference to the aliens from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is interesting because we also know that E.T.'s race appears in these movies as well, so that's two different Steven Spielberg aliens that have appeared throughout the prequels. In the scene where Ben Affleck is doing chin-ups, you can actually see his knob twitch as the camera pans down. Did you see it? Right there. Yeah, this has nothing to do with Attack of the Clones, it's from Batman v Superman, but I think it's important to point out. Many people, upon seeing The Force Awakens, said that Kylo Ren was what Anakin should have been. And rewatching Attack of the Clones, it seems to me that Hayden Christensen could have been just that if only George Lucas had allowed him to do what actors do by shaping the character and the performance. But Lucas kept him on such a short leash, he couldn't really do anything. Even in the scenes where there's bickering back and forth between Anakin and Obi-Wan, just through a slightly different performance, a lot of that dialogue could be changed to be more like two friends kind of giving each other crap, just kind of like teasing each other in the way that guys kind of do. Like this scene.
Besides, your senses aren't that attuned to my young apprentice.
And yours are? Possibly.
With a different read, it could be like, besides, your skills are not that finely in tuned. Oh, and yours are. Perhaps. Okay, I'm a terrible actor, but you get the idea. Just with a different take of the dialogue, it could be more friendly-like. In the elevator scene, we do get a glimpse of that, and in the scene between Anakin and Padme, where he tells the whole aggressive negotiation story.
Aggressive negotiations, what's that?
Well, negotiations with a lightsaber.
That whole thing was improvised by Hayden Christensen since Lucas wasn't happy with the dialogue that he'd written for that scene. And it's a brief moment of humanity in the film that they even bring back in later on.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
That to me shows that Hayden Christensen really had it in him to be a much better version of Anakin. He just wasn't allowed to do it. His creativity was being strangled out of him by George Lucas. And when you look at some of the interviews with Hayden Christensen since making the prequels till now, despite everything, he does seem to have a pretty positive view of things. Despite all the criticism and the hate online he got from people like me, he still views it as a very positive experience. He understandably took a bit of time off acting after the prequels because he didn't want to be typecast, but he's still totally happy, like when fans stop him on the street and ask for an autograph or want to get pictures with him, he has no problem with it. And when rumours about him appearing in episode 8 as either a Force ghost or maybe in a flashback were circulating around, I gotta say, I'm actually kind of excited at the prospect of seeing him in the role again now. And if he does turn out to be in episode 8, I hope he's not just there in a flashback. I hope he actually appears as like an Obi-Wan Kenobi type ghost where he can actually have a conversation, maybe with Kylo Ren or something, like so we can see a bit of acting again. I'd really like to see that. I think this general positive attitude from Hayden Christensen is a big part of why he's been able to sort of live a happy life and still have a modestly successful career as an actor after the prequels. And also partly from him being a bit older than, say, Jake Lloyd was when he was in the prequels, because Jake Lloyd, as we all know, he was very young and he had a rough time after playing Anakin in Phantom Menace. Jake Lloyd has said a number of times that the prequels ruined his life. He got teased and bullied growing up because of it.
Our next guest is from a galaxy far, far away. Jake Lloyd, aka Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it, I'm sorry.
Now, what have you been up to? The movie came out 99, was it?
Yeah.
So it's been 10 years.
Yeah, and I've been in school the entire time, so not a big fan of cameras anymore.
Have you still got all the paraphernalia, your little figurines? Have you kept all the merchandise?
No.
It was obviously a big part of your life, which is why I'm asking.
Yeah?
But it seems like you're not real happy about being asked about it.
No, I'm plenty happy being asked about it. It just seems that I'm just trying to ascertain the real meaning of your questions and make sure I give you the best interview possible.
Are you in touch with any of the old casts?
Not so much anymore. I've literally I disappeared on purpose, and I do these maybe once or twice a year, and I've only been doing that for the last couple of years.
All right, Jake Lloyd, we'll let you go there. Before we let you go, child stars have had a bit of a... They get a bit of a reputation that they turn to, a life of drugs, so may the force be with you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Like, he's had a really rough time, this guy. But you know what? People used to talk about like a Superman curse, since a lot of the people who played that role tended to have unfortunate things happen to them. I wonder if we could say maybe there's a bit of an Anakin curse going on. I mean, Jake Lloyd copped it real bad, and Hayden Christensen kind of had to retire from acting for a lot of years, so maybe there is a little bit of an Anakin curse going on. Playing Vader, though, seems to be okay. But the role of Anakin in Attack of the Clones was passed around to many, many different people. Some of the others that could have played him are Paul Walker, Ryan Philippe, Colin Hanks, that would have been a really weird one, and Jonathan Brandis. Most interestingly, even Leonardo DiCaprio was offered the role, and apparently he did consider it, but eventually decided to turn it down. It's interesting to think about what might have been if DiCaprio had gotten the role of Anakin. But one thing that did kind of bother me about Anakin in Attack of the Clones is Lucas put in this character trope that Anakin is always losing his lightsaber.
Next time, try not to lose it.
Yes, Master. Not again.
And that's fine, that's a perfectly fine trope to put in, but the problem is, Anakin's lightsaber needs to be handed down to Luke, but if he goes through like dozens of lightsabers, it kind of ruins the uniqueness of Luke getting his father's lightsaber. It goes from being a lightsaber that's special, that his father had, that you assume that his father had for many years and went on many adventures with, to now it's just one of the many lightsabers that he had. He might have only had it for like a day or so before that Mustafar fight. It's not really special then. It's not really something that Anakin had for a long time. But look, overall, I do think that Hayden Christensen did as good a job as he could have done under the circumstances, and I really do hope that Hayden Christensen comes out and makes some more movies in the future.
Number 3, the plot.
So the plot of Attack of the Clones begins with half of the universe pulling a Brexit, basically.
The chair recognizes the senator from the sovereign system of Naboo.
What I would like to see is a grown-up and sensible attitude to how we negotiate a different relationship.
This is outrageous. I object to the senator's statements.
Now I know that virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your lives, or worked in business, or worked in trade, or indeed ever created a job. But listen, just listen.
They want to leave the Republic, which, for some reason, might lead to war. And as Confused Matthew pointed out in his review, nobody knows why these planets peacefully separating from the Republic is supposed to lead to war. I mean, so what if they're leaving? It's not the end of the universe. I mean, unless the Republic is like an evil dictatorship and is deciding to attack anyone who's going to leave, which, actually, come to think of it, it kind of is an evil dictatorship, because Palpatine does become Supreme Chancellor. But, you know, it's not like the Republic is drawing first blood and is like attacking the Separatists. Oh, actually they kinda didn't they? But you know, I mean, they could have made more of that like a scheme in the movie, that Palpatine is orchestrating the Republic to be the bad guys. Oh wait, Palpatine was the one who made the clone army. You know, maybe this story is actually smarter than people give it credit for. And the subplot of the assassination attempt on Padme, that also might be like secretly brilliant. Again, on the surface, it does seem kinda dumb, since she is the senator opposing the Military Creation Act, so people are trying to kill her, and who do the Jedi think are the culprits?
Our intelligence points to disgruntled spice miners on the moons of Naboo.
Really, Windu? Really? You don't think it could maybe be the people who are the pro-Military Creation Act? The people who she's working against? You don't think they might be the ones behind it? And then after he says that he thinks it's the miners from Naboo trying to kill her, where does he decide to send her?
Escort the senator back to her home planet of Naboo. She'll be safer there.
Oh yeah, let's send her to Naboo, the same planet where the disgruntled spice miners are that we think are trying to kill her. Let's send her to be closer to those people who we think the bad guys are. Yeah, makes a lot of sense, Windu. But when you think about it, the whole assassination thing, it's all set up by Palpatine, and then he pushes for Anakin to be Padme's protector, and when you combine that with that, according to canon, the kidnapping of Anakin's mother by the Sand People was organized by Dooku on behalf of Palpatine. So on the one hand, you've got Anakin's mum here being killed, and on the other hand, you've got his girlfriend whose life is now being put in danger. That's like a perfect storm to push Anakin over the edge, and it works. That's kind of genius. That's kind of a genius plan. And it also makes sense as to why the Sand People would even take Anakin's mum in the first place. I mean, that always bothered me. I mean, I don't imagine that the Sand People would really take prisoners. They just kill people. I mean, they're not asking for a ransom for his mum, so why else would they even bother keeping her alive? I mean, I can think of one reason why a gang of bad dudes would want to keep a female alive, but I don't really want to think about that. But the whole thing being set up to push Anakin over the edge, that makes so much sense, and I don't know why Lucas didn't include it in the movie, because it's in the canon, so he intended that to be there, but why didn't he include it in the movie? It would have made so much more sense. Something that surfaced throughout the plot of this movie, and that continues on into Revenge of the Sith, is the revolving door of sub-villains. First was Maul in The Phantom Menace. Well, he's dead, but we also need a sub-villain for Attack of the Clones, so let's bring in Count Dooku halfway through the second movie. Oh, he's dead at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, but we still need another sub-villain, so let's bring in General Grievous. Oh, he's dead as well. I mean, yeah, you do have Palpatine as the recurring villain throughout all the movies, but since he's doing everything in secret, he can't really become the villain properly until the final movie. So that's why these sub-villains are important. But it's difficult to get emotionally invested in a conflict with a villain if the villains keep swapping all the time. As the saying goes, a hero is only as good as the villain he's facing. Imagine if all of these sub-villains had just been Maul the whole time, all the way through. Imagine like Maul kills Obi-Wan's master in Phantom Menace and then escapes at the end of the first movie. Maybe he's the one who's trying to kill Padme in the second movie, and after Anakin succeeds in thwarting his plans, he then goes and kills Anakin's mother out of spite. You know, then in the third movie, when they all meet up again to fight, you can imagine the tension that'd be in the air then. But you see what I mean. When you carry a villain over, it raises the stakes more and more, especially if that villain keeps escaping justice. But if you just keep killing a villain in a movie and then replacing them in the next one, the stakes never get raised. We never feel as emotionally invested. I mean, there was a little bit of a rivalry between Anakin and Dooku since Dooku took his hand, but that was over pretty quickly. The dynamic between Luke and Vader in the original trilogy stretched over all three movies. Vader kills his mentor right in front of him in A New Hope. Then he gives him a thorough thrashing in Empire Strikes Back, and things get more complicated.
I am your father.
So by the time they meet again in Return of the Jedi, there's a lot going on. On the one hand, we're wondering if Luke is strong enough to defeat Vader this time, while also wondering if he's going to be able to turn Vader back to the light, and we're also wondering if he can resist the dark side in the meantime. The stakes are so high. If Vader had been killed in the first movie and replaced with someone else by the second, and then again in the third, we wouldn't have that same kind of impact, would we? The revolving door of villains in the prequels, which rears its head here in Attack of the Clones, is, I think, one of the main reasons why people who have problems with the prequels do have problems with the prequels. It doesn't draw you in emotionally, and this is a big part of that. But let's get back to some positive things. As previously stated, since Jar Jar Binks is pretty much out of this movie, C-3PO is brought in to fill the comic relief role, and I would be lying if I didn't admit that I laughed my ass off at all of his antics in the end battle. C-3PO is great, he really is. He's fantastic comic release. It was great to see him back again.
Die, Jedi dogs! What What did I say?
I also kind of like this mini detective story of Obi-Wan Kenobi trying to track down the assassin who's going after Padme. I mean, sure, it is a little silly that Jango Fett uses a dart that can be traced right back to the cloners on Kamino where he lives, and it's a little weird that it doesn't occur to Obi-Wan that maybe the reason he can't find the planet in the archives is because someone deleted it, so he should just fly there and see for himself.
Because someone erased it from the archive memory.
Really? You couldn't figure that out by yourself, Obi-Wan? But regardless of all that, I did really enjoy a Jedi detective story. Those are like two genres that I think actually could go together really well. Yeah, maybe we'll get an anthology movie of Jedi detectives. Would anyone else be interested in a detective Jedi story? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I liked it. But I guess the only other thing left for us to talk about is the romance between Anakin and Padme.
I don't like sand.
So thanks for watching, guys. If you want to check out my reviews of the other prequel movies, you can click right here. I am Bandit, this is Bandit Incorporated. Until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.